संयोरावृणीमहे गातुम् यज्ञाय गातुम् यज्ञपतये दैवी स्वस्तिरस्तु नः स्वस्तिर्मानुषेभ्यः ऊर्ध्वम् जिगातु भेषजम् शन्नो अस्तु द्विपदे शम् चतुष्पदे ॐ शान्तिः 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 सहस्रशीर्षा पुरुषः सहस्राक्षः सहस्रपात् स भूमिम् विश्वतो वृत्वा अत्यतिष्ठद्दशाङ्गुलम् पुरुष एवेदगम् सर्वम् यद्भूतम् यच्च भूयम् उतामृतत्वस्येषा नः यदन्नेनातिरोहति एतावानस्य महिमा अतो ज्यायागिश्च पूरुषः पादोऽस्य विश्वाभूतानि त्रिपादस्यामृतम् दिवि त्रिपादूर्ध्व उदैत्पुरुषः पादोऽस्येहा भवात् पुनः ततो विश्वम् व्यक्रामत् शासनानशने अभि तस्मात् विराडजायत विराजो अधिपूरुषः स जातो अत्यरिच्यत पश्चाद्भूमिमथो पुरः यत्पुरुषेण हविषा देवा यज्ञमतन्वत वसन्तो अस्यासीदाज्यम् ग्रीष्म इध्मः शरद्धविः सप्तास्यासन् परिधजः त्रिः सप्त समिधः कृताः देवागत्यज्ञम् तन्वानाः अबध्नन् पुरुषम् पशुम् तम् यज्ञम् बर्हिषि प्रोक्षन् पुरुषम् जातमग्रतः तेन देवा अयजन्त साध्या ऋषयश्च ये तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः सम्भृतम् वृषदाज्यम् पशोगस्तागिश्चक्रे वायम् यान् आरण्यान् ग्राम्याश्च ये तस्माद्यज्ञात् सर्वहुतः ऋचः सामानि जज्ञिरे छन्दागुंसि जज्ञिरे तस्मात् यजुस्तस्मादजायत तस्मादश्वा अजायन्त ये केचोभजादतः गावोह जज्ञिरे तस्मात् तस्माज्जाता अजावजः यत्पुरुषम् व्यदधुः कतिधा व्यकल्पयन् मुखम् किमस्य कौ बाहू कावूरूपादावुच्येते ब्राह्मणोऽस्य मुखमासीत् बाहूराजन्यः कृतः ऊरू तदस्य यद्वैश्यः पद्भ्यागम् शूद्रो अजायत चन्द्रमा मनसो जातः चक्षोः सूर्यो अजागत मुखादिन्द्रश्चाग्निश्च प्राणात् वायुरजायत नाभ्या आसीदन्तरिक्षम् शीर्ष्णोद्यौः समवर्तत पद्भ्याम् भूभिर्दिशः श्रोत्रात् तथा लोकागम् अकल्पयन् वेदाहमेतम् पुरुषम् महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णम् तमसस्तु पारे सर्वाणि रूपाणि विचित्य धीरः नामानि कृत्वाभिवदन् यदास्ते धाता पुरस्ताद्यमुदा जहार चक्रः प्रविद्वान् प्रदिशश्च तस्रः तमेवम् विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था अजनाय विद्यते यज्ञेन यज्ञमयजन्त देवाः तानि धर्माणि प्रथमान्यासन् ते हनाकम् महिमानः सचन्ते यत्र पूर्वे साध्याः सन्ति देवाः अभ्यः सम्भूतः पृथिव्यैरसाच्च विश्वकर्मणः समवर्तताधि तस्य त्वष्टा विदधद्रूपमेति तत्पुरुषस्य विश्वमाजानमग्रे वेदाहमेतम् पुरुषम् महान्तम् आदित्यवर्णम् तमसः परस्तात् तमेवम् विद्वानमृत इह भवति नान्यः पन्था विद्यते जनाय प्रजापतिश्चरति गर्भे अन्तः अजायमानो बहुधा विजायते तस्य धीराः परिजानन्ति योनिम् मरीचीनाम् पदमिच्छन्ति वेधसः यो देवेभ्य आतपति यो देवानाम् पुरोहितः पूर्वो यो देवेभ्यो जातः नमो रुचाय ब्राह्मये रुचम् ब्राह्मम् जनयन्तः देवा अग्रे तदब्रुवन् यस्त्वैवम् ब्राह्मणो विद्यात् तस्य देवा असन्वशे ह्रीश्च ते लक्ष्मीश्च पत्न्यौ अहोरात्रे पार्श्वे नक्षत्राणि रूपम् अश्विनम् व्यात्तम् इष्टम् मनिषाण अमुम् मनिषाण सर्वम् मनिषाण ॐ शान्ति
ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः. Namaste everyone. Very beautiful chanting by Chalakara brothers there. Just love to hear them chant. So wonderful. So let us go back to the main topic of Purusha Suktam. And if you were to say to yourself, and if somebody were to ask you, describe in one sentence or a couple of sentences what the central topic of Purusha Suktam is. And the answer to that is to see unity in disunity. This is the central topic. And here one thing to make a note of, the seeing of unity in the presence of disunity is not for the sake of others. That is a byproduct. It is really the sake of yourself. Why? Because in unity there is joy. And in this disunity there is dukkha. There is conflict. And so if we can see unity, then it is really for our own sake. So this is number one. The second thing is that the unity that we are asked to see with the help of this scriptural text, because relative unity, you can get it from someplace else. People will say, hey, don't fight, just make up. And your parents and your friends will also say, stop quarreling with your family and friends. And so there it is a good advice, but it is seeing a relative unity. A relative unity is subject to become disunity again. So the unity is just for the time being, and it's good advice, but it is very limited in its advice. The unity that we hope to see as clearly as possible with the study of Purusha Suktam is absolute unity, not relative unity. So that is not clear to us. How do you see absolute unity? And the advantage of that is that it gives you Suktam, joy, happiness forever, not just for a short time. And there is no going back to it. Anyway, that is the central topic of it, called unity in disunity. And we will present it with the help of our acharyas, Swami Maheshananji and Swami Dayanandji, in various ways as we study this. But that should be kept in mind. If somebody were, your own idea should be very clear as to what the central idea is. Now, I thought that before we tackle that main topic that we had started last week, and we will continue today, there are a couple of outstanding things that did not get covered very well, or did not cover it. And I want to just go over that at this point so that you are clear about it. One of them, if you recall, was the sentence called Yat Annena Atirohati. Yat Annena Atirohati. So if you remember that. So this is in the second mantra, which said Purusha eva idagum sarvam yad bhutam yad cha bhavyam utamir tattvasya shanaha yadan annena atirohati. This was the topic, which I had not really covered very much. And part of it was that I think Swami Maheshananji in his commentary did not comment on this particular one. But I do recall that when Swami Dayanandji had taught us in a very not as elaborate a manner as Swami Maheshananji, I felt that he must have done it. So I was researching it, and I did, and I found some notes from Dayanandji's class, and he said the following. One is that there are two. I'll keep it somewhat short because we have a number of things to do. So, yat annena atiroha. Annena. So, anna means food. So, atirohati means to manifest, to express himself in the form of a food. So, what this means is Anna stands for bhoga, enjoyment. It stands for enjoyment. And so the expression of Purusha in the form of enjoyment is mentioned here in the form of annam. And so really what it means is, this is something that we will continue to focus on, that really whenever you have joy, whenever you have a sense of satisfaction, that sense of satisfaction and joy is the expression of Ishvara in your life. How can we say that? We can say that because, as we will be continuing to study, everything is Ishvara. there is nothing which is not Ishvara. You cannot say, well, this is my joy. I'm eating an ice cream and this is my joy. Where does Ishvara come into the picture? It is really the enjoyment of ice cream was made possible by the expression of Ishvara. And generally it is hidden. It is not really express itself, just like the example of the ocean and the water of the ocean and the waves is a beautiful one. Normally the waves are hidden inside the ocean. There is nothing available. You cannot say, oh, there, look at this beautiful wave. There is no wave. But the wave, when it comes out, comes from the ocean itself. So similarly, when there is no joy, that also is Ishvara. But when there is joy, that also is the expression of Ishvara. So that Ishvara's bhoga, the enjoyment, is exemplified by annam. Now the word annam, food, is a very special one. So let me tell you about what Swami Dayanand used to talk about on this point. He said, if you look at the various experiences in your life, pleasant experiences, leave aside the unpleasant experiences, but if you look at the pleasant experiences, there is no experience other than eating where you have complete satisfaction. And this word is used in Sanskritam called tripti. All these are not synonyms, but they are close to each other. Happiness and joy, satisfaction is called tripti. So if you look at this, Swami Dayanand used to say that when you, let's suppose you make some money in the stock market. This happened to me. I was lucky enough to buy a little bit of, this is about a year ago, some Tesla stock. And everybody else was saying, why are you buying Tesla? This is when it was like 350 or so. And I made some money. I sold it at 400. And I was very happy. Very happy. I made $50 per share on Tesla. And my family also congratulated me that your timing was good and so on. And guess what? It is now over $1,000. So this is not tripti, because I wish I had bought more or I had stayed with it. So this is very common in our life. You do not get tripti with the exception of food. So this Swami Dayanand used to say that is called alam buddhi. Alam buddhi means enough. In Hindi, bas. And so here's what happens is you are very hungry and you have not had food for the whole day, and so you're really starving. The word starving, that makes me laugh. So there was recently a family friend was telling us that they had 2 kids, and one was a daughter who was 11 and her brother was about 7. Okay, so they were both very hungry. And so the son, 7-year-old, was bugging his mom and saying, Mom, I'm starving. So he used this a couple of times. And his older sister, who was about 11 or so, she was doing her homework. And she looked up and said, I forget what his name was. Anyway, it doesn't matter, whatever it is. Ram, let's say. Ram, you're not starving. You are hungry. It's the poor people in Bangladesh who are starving. And the parents were looking at it and says, wow, what a beautiful distinction this 11-year-old sister made, that there is a distinction between starving and hungry. Anyway, so if you are very hungry and you start eating the food, there comes a point, and if you have a very friendly spouse who says, come on, you can have another roti. You already had 2 or 3 rotis. Normally you just eat 1.5 or something, but now you've had 2 because you were truly starving. And now the spouse says, no, you can have another one. And you give in and say, I don't eat this. This is a very good food. Okay, I'll have another one. Then she comes back and says, can you have another one? And you say, bus, that's it. There is complete satisfaction. So going back to this, annena atirohati means there is nothing. Ishvara actually has made this. No matter how unhappy you are, in fact, if you are more unhappy than the normal, food is very important to you. In fact, the psychologists, when they talk to people who are overweight, they can tell this person is generally unhappy with himself or herself, and to address that, you eat more. Anyway, that's just a lot of commentary. And so here, atirohati means that the Ishvara expresses himself as bhoga, is what is called bhoga ayatanam. In the if you studied the book Tattva Bodha, there it talks about sharira, which is called bhoga ayatanam. It is the place where the enjoyment takes place. Anyway, so that is the meaning of that sentence, which we had not covered fully, and now that we have. Now the other, very briefly, is the word Purusha that we have not really explained, and I want to go on. There's a lot of other things I want to do today, but I'll briefly mention the 2 meanings of the word Purusha, which are pretty common. You may have really heard both of them. So one is called Purao Ushati iti Purusha. Ushati here means Vasati. Vasati means dwells. The one who dwells in the Pura. So Pur or Pura means a city. A functioning entity is called a city. This is why we have in India all the words and generally end with Pur. Kanpur, Nagpur, Bhagalpur, Puram, 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 Puram. So here, one meaning of the word Purusha is the one who dwells in the city of your body-mind complex. And the one who dwells in it is also aided by the second meaning of Purusha, which is Purnatvat iti Purusha. So it comes from the etymological word pro. Pro means to fulfill, to fill. You can not fulfill, to fill. And so what happens is that the Purusha does 2 functions where it is close to you, but it also makes you what you are without being affected by it. And one example of that is that, for example, if you look at a room space, and so a room space, the most fundamental part of the room space is space. Like, for example, when you are packing up for something, you say, listen, I don't have enough space, can I give you some of my garments to carry? The space is very, very precious. Similarly, when you've had children, now you cannot just live in a studio apartment, now you have a 1-bedroom space apartment. So the space is very important. So what really makes the room work is space. If the space was not there, the whole thing will collapse. You will have no place to even live anywhere. All the walls will be together. And yet the space is not affected by it. It blesses you and say, good, enjoy this 1-bedroom place, 2-bedroom places, a large suitcase, and nothing is given away. It's not as though now the space is lessened by this amount that it has given you. It gives you, it blesses you, but without any change. This is the two meanings of Purusha, which we will see in more detail. And also, one last thing which we may not have completely covered is, I think we did partially, but perhaps relative to this definition of Purusha and also Annena Atirohati, is the word Dashangulam. Remember there was this thing called, in the very first verse itself, Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasraksha Sahasrapad Sabhumim Vishwato Vritva Atyatishtat Dashangulam. Means that it fills the whole world, and yet it stays away by space of 10 fingers. Here again, Swami Dayanandji had given us both, but there are two meanings of this. So one is Dashangulam means Hridaya, heart, the very essence of us. And so the Purusha, one meaning is, Dashangulam, is that it stays in the heart. Upalabdhi sthanam. Upalabdhi sthanam means that you can find the essence of oneself in the heart of the person. And so when you say I, you actually touch it and say, I refuse to believe this. You don't say, I refuse to believe this, not the arms or feet or head or anything. I refuse to believe this. I am with you. So you touch the heart, the very center of yourself. This is one meaning of Dashangulam. The other meaning of Dashangulam is that even though it Vishwataha Sabhumim Vishwataha Vritva, even though it created the bhumi and so on and so forth, it still is not touched by it, is away by it by 10 fingers. So just like Sahasra Shirsha doesn't mean 1,000 heads, similarly the 10 fingers don't mean 10 fingers. It means it stays far enough away that it is unaffected. And yet it is very close to you because it stays in your own heart. And so though that's the meaning of, these are all poetic words to describe the phenomena that we'll be studying in more detail as we go along, but I thought that I would revisit a couple of gaps in the understanding that we had not quite filled up. And I'm very grateful for the notes from Swami Dayanandji, which I went back to and studied it. And now I think I'm at least satisfied that those verses have been taken up. Okay, so go back to now the main topic that we studied last week, which is finding unity in disunity. And so one comment on this, which was triggered by a question from one of the students, and then I had replied to it on in the email, and the question had to do with the fact that in the face of conflict, which is very serious, how can we look for unity? And for those of us who are tracking the very dangerous events between India and China on the line of control, LAC, which has been poorly marked, and there is a lot of pressure from both sides to grab as much land as possible. This is a very serious problem. In the view of this is an appropriate question to ask, that, is this all kind of goody-goody, we find unity in disunity, or what about the real problems that we are facing in boundary conflict? And by not the only one, we find similar conflicts in our life every day. And so how do we resolve it? How do you explain it? I think I would comment on that a little bit before I go back to the main topic. So one very interesting aspect of this that we should be aware of, that my experiences of life, each one of our experiences in life, can be roughly classified into one which is the result of my past karma, past actions which have been stored in my account. This is what is called prarabdha karma. Prarabdha karma. Sometimes it is also called fate in the Western terminology, but this is much more than fate. It just means that there are some stored actions that haven't fructified yet, and now they are fructifying. So this is one set of experiences in my life. Okay. Now the other set of experiences are the ones where I have created now through my own choices that it'll be nice to do this. Let us go on a vacation. Let us not do vacation. So whatever choices that I make, which has some influence from the prarabdha karma, no doubt about it, but it is a fresh set of desires that create problems for you or give you some happiness. So this is what is called kamya karma. Now, in Vedanta, this karma is actually divided into 4. So you may have actually seen this. I'll very quickly go into this. I won't really spend a lot of time. So one is called nitya karma. One is called naimittika karma. The third one is the same as before, which is called kamya karma. And the fourth one is nishiddha karma. So let's tackle the nishiddha karma first. Nishiddha karma means one you should just avoid completely. Violence is part of nishiddha karma. Not speaking the truth, lying, is part of the nishiddha karma. Please don't do that because it will give you a lot of problems. Very clear to avoid, not very difficult to avoid. So this is called nishiddha karma. So now we have 3 left. And the 3 are nitya naimittika, and both nitya naimittika can be clubbed together as prarabdha karma. So nitya karma means the one which you should be doing as a daily occurrence. Nothing special. So you have to take care of yourselves, your family, friends, whatever it is, go to the job. This is nitya karma. Naimittika karma means occasionally done as a result of something which is not normal. Like for example, if a friend is very, very sick in the hospital, then it is important that you go there to look after the friend. So this is called naimittika. Nimitta bhava. It means that it is caused by some special circumstances. Your friend is not in the hospital the rest, every day, but once in a while when it is in the hospital. So this is called naimittika karma. So now let us go back to what I was saying about how to deal with conflicts. Okay? So the advice given by Vedanta is that divide your responses based on prarabdha karma or kamya karma. So to simplify, nishiddha karma is gone and the nitya naimittika have been clubbed together into one. So there's really only 2 actions that you are faced with. The prarabdha karma must be done. Must be done. Kamya karma need not be done and generally speaking should not be done. In other words, you can enjoy, like kamya karma means to come up with some new sources of joy. You can do it if you want to. But if you are engaged in the dutiful karmas based on your response to prarabdha karma, then, and you minimize kamya karma, you are now well equipped to do self-analysis and self-enquiry into who you really are. If you're busy with kamya karma, once you went, I see some of my friends these days, of course, with the coronavirus, everything is all changed. But many of my friends, they are continuously traveling around the world. And the only time they are not traveling around the world is when they are preparing to travel for the next one. I'm telling you, this is what happens. They'll describe it and say, I just went to on a Mediterranean cruise and how nice it was and this, that or the other and so on and so forth. And so we said, well, when did you come back? Well, I came back a couple of weeks ago and I've been very busy because my husband and I are planning to take the next one. So we wanted to do all the research on it. Hey, when do you have the time to just relax and not do anything? No, I'm very busy. This is kamya karma. The second one is prarabdha karma. If you do not respond to nitya naimittika karma, you will have a problem. So now the conflict with China is part of the naimittika karma. Prarabdha karma. So prarabdha karma. And not putting the blame on China or anything like this, India has put itself in a soup in the last 2000 years. It is not taken its strength into account. It has had a lot of fraternal fights, and even since we got independence from the British, it has been nothing but corruption and mismanagement of the government, and our economy is suffering. No, behold, China, of course they will attack us. We are very vulnerable. So this is our prarabdha karma. How do we respond to it? We have to take now steps based on whatever we are possible to do. So therefore, what it means is that in order to see unity, and the seeing of unity at an absolute level has to be a part of the study. Is an absolute unity possible? Because right now we are only used to a relative unity. We have figured out, although not everyone, that to live in harmony is very pleasant. To live in disharmony it creates a lot of problems. Common sense, nothing much to do with. But the only issue is that to live in harmony is only temporary. Until the next conflict arises, then you flare up again and you fight and so on and so forth, and you regret it and you are confused as to what to do. So it is not do you understand, not until you understand what absolute unity is, you cannot really make progress on this. Recently, in about a year or so ago, we had a opening of a new hall in Sailorsburg Ashram. A beautiful, huge hall has been opened there. I don't know why it had to be so elaborate, but it is for what it is. And so a lot of us had gone for that and so on. And there, this is about summer of last year, 2019, I think, somewhere there, in August time frame, I think. So there were a number of people that gave talks, and one of them was a talk by Swami Tadatmananda, which you may have heard. He's also a student of Swami Dayanandji, and now he's his own ashram close to Sailorsburg. Good teacher, very good teacher. And he made he gave a very good discourse. I thought was very well done. What he said was, and this is the time when the coronavirus had not appeared on the scene, and our main problem was the governing style of President Trump and how he's dividing the nations into two parts and so on and so forth, disunity. And Swami Tadatmananda made a very beautiful point. What he said was, in order for you to find goodness in others, which is the very foundation of unity, you have to find the goodness in yourself. Beautiful. Absolutely correct. If your heart is in conflict, it is not possible for you to seek unity with somebody else, except if you want some sympathy. This is what happens. Supposing, I'm just making it up, supposing the spouses fight. Then it is very possible that you are in conflict and, so you can go to your best friend and say, I need some advice. We are having a problem in our marriage. So that part is okay. But generally speaking, you cannot find unity in this environment that we find ourselves in which there are sides taken on both sides, liberal and conservative and so on and so forth. We cannot even find this sense of unity until you discover unity in your own heart. Beautiful point. Absolutely correct. This is what Vedanta is saying. So it says that study the nature of unity and disunity. Study it to the point where you have the occasion to look at absolute unity and how from the absolute unity some relative disunity expresses itself. So now we can close off the topic and go back to the mainstream of what Purusha Suktam is saying. And that is, please see that the absolute unity is the nature of the Purusha. And here, another thing to keep in mind is all this what I'm just going to say should be kept in mind in every step of the way for our study. That when you say that the absolute unity is in Purusha, it doesn't mean absolute unity in Ishvara away from you. It also means absolute unity in the Purusha that you are. Because we have said this already, and we will explain this even more, that the word Purusha applies just as much to a human being as to Ishvara. Both are exactly similar. Both are bhumim vishvato vritva atyatistad dashangulam. Both are yad bhutam yaccha bhavyam. Both are jayascha guscha purusha. Etavanasya mahima. Padaha asya vishva bhutani. Tripadasya amritam divi. All of this. We've studied a little bit of that already, and so we will do more of this. So the reference to the absolute unity is not just in the samashti, but also in the vyashti. Vyashti means the microcosm. Samashti means the macrocosm. So keep that in mind. In any case, we have to discover the absolute unity and how the absolute unity can express itself in variety. And so really speaking, when you have infinite number of waves in the ocean, then the infinity, the various different parts of the, this is also the very, very important thing in the prayer. Purna padaha purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnam eva avashishyate. So purnam here means infinity. So the example of the ocean, of course, is relative. But if you look at the whole universe, the number of people, situations, events, possibilities are infinite. You cannot say the Ishvara is now tired, he has expressed himself in various ways and now I think he's very, no. There is continuous display of variety of situations, the variety of people, and there is no single thing. It's not going to end, never has, never will be. It will be always a display of an amazing variety. And the problem, of course, is that in that variety, I'm looking for unity. And you find that if you are within a country, there also you fight. And then if there is another country attacking you, then there is a fight. And the fight never goes away. You cannot just shake hands and say, forget it. It just goes on and on. The number of situations that you're confronting with. Why? Because my mindset is that I'm looking at variety and I'm looking for similarity to me. This is why Brahmins look for Brahmins, and within the same caste people look for their own caste, because you want similarity, you can have some unity, except then you fight. Instead, what we have to do is that we should find out what is the absolute unity which has given rise to all the variety. And there you will find Ishvara, there you will find Purusha. And the Purusha will be not away from you, it is you. And there will be a possibility of finding absolute unity in your own heart. And so this is the central theme of Purusha Suktam. No other theme is there. Creation, which we are going to go very quickly now, all the creations, the very sequencing, the very creation of society, samaja, the choice of 4 kinds of people, that we are going to look into all of that. All of this is the design of Ishvara. And the design is not to create any differences, but to see it is nothing but me alone. When you touch something in the whole world, you touch Ishvara. It's like that example we gave, that if you're showing San Francisco to people and you've now shown him 2 days of sightseeing in the city, and the person says, I have not seen San Francisco. Foolishness. So similarly here also you feel that yes, I've got friends, I've got enemies, I've got this, but I don't find any Ishvara. Amazing. Incredible. So this is what it is, really speaking, that we have to be introduced to the topic of the presence of Ishvara. And once we understand it, then the possibility of absolute unity becomes a reality for us. I would like to just mention, I think you should know this already, but just in one thing you should know by now, not by now, but you should just know, is that in any creation there are 2 causes. So one is the intelligent cause, and the other one is the material cause. Those 2 are necessary. So for example, if you look at a pot maker, then the pot maker must have the intelligence of coming up with some useful, good-looking pots, clay pots. But he also needs to have the material to build itself. So you can visualize, and he says, I think I'm going to make this bigger part that has a neck like this, and it is stable, like that you can visualize. But now he has to translate that into a material based on some clay that he starts to now spin around and then shape it with his hands. So you have the intelligent person and the material thing that is there for us. So in this case, the intelligent and the material are separate from each other. But there are also examples where the intelligence and material are from the same person. It's not different from you. The two very famous examples, which many of you must have known this already, is the spider. So the spider, which is an amazing intelligence, really incredible, how the spider finds places where bugs are likely to visit and people are not going to be there, and he just makes a web right there on the corner. There's a lot of intelligence. And the material for it comes from its own sputum. And so this is one example. Even a more appropriate example is that of a dream. In a dream, you see a lot of things. This is just an amazing dream. Dream is a very, very amazing example. And this is what we are studying in the Mandukya Upanishad in the Saturday morning class with the Gaudapadacharya ji's Karika, a very advanced text. And there it examines the very nature of dream, of the human dream. And what you find, which we can all relate to, is there is so much going on. There is so much going on in the dream. Right in the middle of the darkness, you have sun, and you have heat, and you have tigers, and you have friends, and you all kinds of stuff. And you build it up from your own material of your own self. And your mind is the one that conjures up all these kinds of things. So this is what is called abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. Abhinna means non-differentiated, all in one. Nimitta means intelligent. Upadana means the material cause. And so nimitta upadana karanam. Ishvara has nimitta upadana karanam. And so now we can derive some truths from this. So the most important thing is that the creation that we see, which is infinite, is from within Ishvara himself, through Purusha himself. So on this particular, there is a difference between the human Purusha and the Ishvara Purusha, because the human Purusha did not create everything. The human Purusha created my own dream. But this is the dream of the whole universe, is that of Ishvara, the Purusha. And so this whole thing came about from Ishvara itself. Similarly is the example of the ocean and the waves. So when you touch a wave, you touch the ocean, and the wave comes out from the belly from the material of the ocean. It may actually dance around and be separate for a while, but really speaking, it comes from Ishvara himself. And so really speaking, it is a dance, and you don't need to really find Ishvara. You need to find the presence of Ishvara at all places. Purusha and Ishvara, I'm using the word interchangeably, at all places. It's really a method of attitude more than recognition, more than anything else. And really all roles are there for us to reach Ishvara. All roles. Here's a story that Swami Maheshananji gave. I don't know if I already told this. Perhaps this is the second time around. Forgive me if this is a repetition. So, so there was a person who used to deal with making leather. He used to skin the hide of the animals, and taxidermist. Not taxidermist. He's just a leather person. In Hindi, it's called chamar. And so the chamar comes from, because he's dealing with such things and so on, generally speaking, they're very poor and outcasts people. So this was the chamar. So he had heard, some Pandit had told him that, listen, if you ever go to Varanasi, Kashi, and you commit suicide in Kashi with the last thought of what you want to be that is different from who you are, your next life you will be realized. So number one, be in Kashi. Number two, make a sankalpa. This is what I want to be. And then commit suicide. And he says that Shastra will take you there. I don't know if that's true or not. It's just a story. So this person goes to a temple in Kashi. And so the Pandit says, what are you doing here? What do you want? He says, this is what I want to do because, I want to commit suicide. And so the Pandit says, okay, fine. So then what you need to do is do a sankalpa. What you want to be. So he says, okay, give me some time. So first he thought, I want to be a Brahmin priest. And the Brahmin priest is really, he's so well respected. Everybody goes to him and so on. He's the highest caste, and I want to be. Then he got to thinking. He said, this Brahmin priest has to get up at 3:45 every morning. And he has to take a cold bath. And he has to do all these self-pujas to purify himself. And then he cannot eat anything for a while, and so much study is involved, and so much chanting and remembering and so on and so forth. And by the way, just for your information, that reminds me, recently when I was in Manjakudi, which is the birthplace of Swami Dayanandji, so I was there in the end of January, and very happy to be taken around by the people there and so on and so forth. And so our Him for Seva person, Sri Raman, he took me to one Veda Pathshala where all these young boys were chanting, and they are taught chanting. And so they were expecting us, and we all sat in chairs, and these kids, all ranging from, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20, they were all assembled doing chanting, and they gave us a sample. So at the end of that, the teacher asked me, do you have any questions? So I said, yes, I do. I said, on an average, each of these people, how long can they chant without looking at the book? And normally you don't look at a book, you just chant by memory. But no repetition, how long would it be? His answer was so quick, I cannot believe. He says 48 hours. Continuously. And that means that if it is non-continuous, that means if they sleep at night time, it'll be like several days. When we had the Kumbha Abhishekam of our temple in Sailorsburg, and I've attended a few others also, but I still remember this one. Our main priest at that time was Ravichandran. And Ravichandran was chanting all the mantras for the Abhishekam, for the foundation of this temple, for 4 days without looking at anything. Incredible. So anyway, this Chamar thought, I am not going to do all this. This is not what I want to do. This is too much work involved. Why should I do all of this? And these days, people don't give much dakshina to the Brahmins anyway. These guys are starving. They're hungry. Not starving, but they're hungry. So he says, no, I think I want to be a Kshatriya. I want to be a king. He can just order everybody, and then they all come and give salutes to him and so on and so forth. And he was discussing this with some friends. Then he said, oh my God, the life of a king is very tenuous, because the people around are always encroaching on him, and the moment he becomes weak, just like China is doing, they attack you, and the first person they kill is the king. Because if you kill the king, then everybody else will just say, okay, Baba, I'm okay, don't kill me, I'll be your slave. But the king is gone. He said, I don't want to be a king. He says, I think I want to be a Sethji, a Vaishya. And the king, the Vaishya, is so fat, and he just sits in his shop, and he eats all day long. He doesn't have to do any exercise. People he just barks orders for everybody. Then he said, I know a Sethji who cannot sleep at night. His business is suffering, and he cannot trust any of his lieutenants. He has to do all the accounting himself. Baba, I do not want to do that. He says, I am very happy to be a Chamar. So he told the Pandit who was waiting for him so what is your sankalpa? He says, I have no sankalpa. So he says, out, then don't waste my time, go. So this is the situation. And so one of the advice given to us is, we should see the relevance in our life. So this also is relevant to this prarabdha karma versus kamya karma. See, for instance, we always want to be something different than what I am. Not happy with I am. I want to do something totally different. Kamya karma. And it turns out that you were given a certain situation, and you were always looking to change it. And so you remember that story I told you. I think this one I did tell you. And that is the story of a villain in the Indian movies who was so good at what he does that he became typecast as a villain, excellent villain. He used to get a lot of money. And then he said, I'm tired of being a villain. I want to be a good guy. And I want to really, so he approached some producers and said, I don't want to be a villain anymore. Give me the hero's job. And the producer told him, no, this is not going to work. You cannot shift. You have worked very hard. This is the prarabdha karma. You have worked very hard to become an excellent villain, and now all of a sudden to become a hero, nobody would, my films will fail. I don't want my films to fail. I'm telling you, this is not going to work. So here, the advice given to us is, you've come up to a certain stage in your life. I wouldn't say this to a 16-year-old, but for adults, you have come up to a certain stage in your life where you have been given an opportunity to excel in what you do. And instead of always looking to change your situation, stick with what you have and convert your energies to self-inquiry. Swami Maheshananji says that really speaking, if you stay, and the Gita also says the same thing, that to change your identity, always looking for something new, you miss out the very natural unity which is absolute unity in your own self. Stay where you are and convert your energies towards the inquiry, towards the nature of what Ishvara is and the nature of who you are. What is your relationship? If you do that, you have a much better chance of making the progress of becoming an unconditionally free person. Now we're so late with all this that I was hoping to at least start with the 5th verse. So you know what I'll do? So I will just chant the 5th verse, and I promise you we will begin the discussion of Purusha Suktam with the 5th verse. All this is now done. So, and that one is Tasmat Virad Ajayata Virajo Adipurushaha Sajato Attarichyata Paschad Bhumi Atha Puraha. So this now, the sequence of creation and the order of this creation and the purpose of the creation is now taken up. And so one thing to, in fact there is one more thing to talk about before we go to that, which is relative to, this is a very important point to see. I think I may have mentioned it before, but I'm happy to do it one more time. And that is, in the very beginning 4 verses, what is pointed out is that the source of the entire creation, including you and I, is the Purusha. You see, this is what it's. What point is that when there might be a wave of the ocean that is having some emotional problems, of isolation, of being singled out, whatever. Neighbors being too pushy, friends not being there, whatever the wave that has its own problem, is told, listen, you're not alone. Because you are a product of the ocean. You came from the ocean. You didn't come from someplace else. You came from the ocean. And guess what? You will go back to the ocean, which is an amazing thing, which does not change, which doesn't have any of the problems you as a wave have. And so this is the advice given to him. And the advice is based on the understanding that please see that you are a product of the ocean. You came from the ocean. So this is an important point, because in the first 4 verses, Sahasra Shirsha Purusha, etc., etc., all the way up to Sashanana Shane Abhi, what is saying is that the very source of all of us is Ishvara. If you don't believe it, then study it. This is the fact. It is the Purusha. Purusha eda evagum sarvam. And therefore it is said, there is another corollary to this. The corollary is that whenever something seems to be separated from the very source, it is unhappy. It wants to go back to its own source. Source meaning wherever it came from. And so Swami Maheshananji had given an example that, for example, if the water is evaporated and rises up as a cloud in the hot weather, this is why you have such a hot weather before the monsoon sets in. This is all necessary, unfortunately. And then it becomes a cloud. And it becomes a cloud because it has some jobs to do. It has to traverse onto the mountain tops and then coalesce into water vapor and then drop the rain so that the earth can be irrigated. And then once it gets back, it's anxious to go back to its own source. So the river does not want to stop until you dam it or something, but it just keeps on going until it reaches the ocean. Similarly, Swamiji has said that if you were to throw a clod of earth away from the earth, the very gravitational force allows it to go back naturally to the earth. And similarly, a flame goes back towards the very sun that it came from. Therefore, we should see that emotionally at this point we are separated from our source. Emotionally. We are never separated. The whole thing is nothing but an ocean of consciousness. And a wave can never be away from the water. Even though it is slightly moving around, it's still very close, it will come back to it. And so we came from Ishvara. Emotionally we are separated. Emotionally we have to get reunited. And we are doing it without knowing it. When you want complete happiness, you turn towards Ishvara. This is why the sample of deep sleep is given to us. For the time being, we are reunited with Ishvara. And there will be a time when any doubts you have as being separated during the daytime, you will be able to address it, and then there will be no question of any temporary separation from Ishvara, from Purusha. You will become Purusha itself. Both the Purusha will become one and the same alone. So this is the direction that we are going to follow. And so what it means is that in verse number 5, the very creation follows the point, created from where? Abhinna nimitta upadana karanam. I'm a part of the body of Ishvara. I just didn't know it. That's all. So anyway, we'll start with the verses on creation. So with that, let me close the class with a prayer, and then I will look to see if you had any questions. Om asato ma satkamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityorma amritam gamaya. Om purnamadav purnamidam purnat purnamudachyate purnasya purnamadaya purnameva vashishyate. Om shanti shanti shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay. All right. Got it. Okay. So good to see you all. A lot of people, 46 I can see watching. That's great. I'm very happy that you're all participating in this class, listening to this. I don't see any questions per se. I will wait for a while to see if you have anything that pops up. So while you're doing that, let me mention one other thing. So was it today or yesterday? I think it was yesterday that one of our senior students that have been with us for a long time, Chavla Joshi, she called me and said that we should maintain our tradition of celebrating Guru Purnima, which, as you know, is a event where the students and teachers get together and celebrate the very parampara, sampradaya of all the way from Ishvara to the present teacher, and just stay together for a short time, just to give thanks to each other, and to celebrate this very beautiful hallowed tradition of the teacher and the student. So this is called Guru Purnima, that happens once a year. And so this year it is on Sunday, July 5th. So Chawla and I talked about this, whether we should do this on Zoom or what should we do, because until last year we would have a live class where people will come in and so on. So I think after some discussion I've decided that I'm just going to do it in YouTube again. So I will send you the details of it, but this coming Sunday at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, which for Shanti Kumar it will be 9:30 at night, so it will still be doable. And for those of you that are on either the East Coast or Europe, you should be okay. It'll be only in the evening. So what we will do is it'll be a 1-hour program at most, maybe a little bit less than that. So we will chant the Guru Stotram and Akhanda Mandalakaram Vyaptam Yena Characharam, that one. And I will send you a text on that for those of you that are not familiar with it. And so hopefully even a chant, but if not a chant, then I will chant it, and you can, those of you that know can chant it. So that might take about 5 minutes or so. Then I will give a small talk about the importance of the Guru Purnima, thank my gurus and so on and so forth, and perhaps add some of my own thoughts to it, and might take another 20 minutes or so maybe. And then what I will do is this question answer, we will do it in an extended way. And by that I mean that if you had anything to say about the teaching, how it has affected you, then please take the time to put it down on this. Or if you want to send me an email ahead of time, then I will acknowledge that and read it for you. This is just to reiterate that you are being benefited by this teaching. And so that will be an extended question answers. And also after that we will disperse. So I will send you with an email for this, Guru Purnima. And I agreed with Chawla that even though we are now all quarantined, we should at least maintain the tradition on an annual basis, not break it. So we will do so. So I agreed to do so. So Virendra Singh asks, why is there sorrow and misery in the world and not complete absolute happiness of the Brahman? And so, obviously, an important question, and one that Virendra, you are very fond of asking, and I'm very fond of replying to you. And that means that without some dukkha, one would not appreciate. It's not possible. There's no creation of just one-sided joy alone. Because anytime you'll get bored with just joy, 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 joy. You don't think you will be, but you will be. And so you will say, is there something else? Anyways, this has been well thought through, and we will continue to answer this question in the forward work, but one that you have asked many times before. I appreciate it. Excellent. Good. It looks like there's no other questions per se, and I look forward to seeing you on Sunday, and of course the next week, a week from now. Oh, goodbye.